When people imagine Rome, they imagine greatness, golden churches, powerful popes, artists painting ceilings that will be admired for centuries. But if you walked through the streets of Rome in the year 1500, you would quickly discover something very different, because behind the glory, behind the palaces and cathedrals, there was another Rome, a city of crowded alleys, poverty, disease, violence, a place where survival was never guaranteed. And for most people living here, life was far more brutal than history usually remembers. By the year 1500, Rome is a city caught between two very different realities. On one side, the city is slowly rising again as a center of power and culture. Wealth flows into Rome through the influence of the Catholic Church. Popes invest enormous sums of money into rebuilding the city. New churches are constructed. Old structures are restored. Palaces belonging to powerful families rise along major streets. Artists, architects, and scholars arrive from across Italy, drawn by the promise of patronage and opportunity. The Renaissance is beginning to transform Rome into a center of art, politics, and religion. But only a short distance from these grand buildings lies a completely different world. Large areas of the city remain poor, crowded, and neglected. Ancient ruins still dominate parts of the landscape. Broken columns, collapsed walls, and abandoned Roman structures stand beside modest homes built from reused stone and wood. Entire communities live among the remains of the ancient empire. Narrow streets wind through neighborhoods where merchants, laborers, and craftsmen struggle to survive. Rome in 1500 is not simply a glorious Renaissance capital. It is a city divided between power and poverty, grandeur and hardship, two worlds existing side by side every day. For ordinary people, daily life in Rome around the year 1500 is a constant struggle. Most residents do not live in palaces or elegant stone houses. Instead, they crowd into small apartments above shops, workshops, and noisy marketplaces. These buildings are often poorly constructed and packed tightly together, with several families sharing the same structure. Inside, the rooms are dark and cramped. Furniture is simple. Privacy is almost non-existent. In some buildings, entire families sleep in a single room. Outside, the streets are narrow and uneven, paved with worn stone or sometimes just packed dirt. Garbage and waste are frequently thrown into the alleys, and the smell of animals, smoke, and food scraps fills the air. Water must be collected from public fountains scattered across the city, forcing people to carry heavy buckets back through crowded streets every day. Work begins early in the morning. Porters haul heavy goods through the markets. Blacksmiths hammer metal inside smoky workshops. Bakers prepare bread before sunrise. For many laborers, missing even one day of work means losing the money needed to buy food. And when night falls, the atmosphere becomes even more uncertain. Without proper lighting, the streets grow dark and dangerous. Thieves move through narrow alleys, and travelers often try to reach their homes before the city disappears into shadow. While ordinary citizens struggle through crowded streets and uncertain daily work, the true center of power in Rome lies inside the walls of the papal palaces. In the year 1500, Rome is not simply a city, it is the political heart of the Catholic Church. The Pope is not only a religious leader, he is also a powerful political ruler who controls land, armies, wealth, and diplomatic relationships across Europe. At this time, the papal throne is held by Pope Alexander VI. Born Rodrigo Borgia, he comes from one of the most influential and controversial families of the Renaissance. His court is filled with cardinals, diplomats, military commanders, and advisors from powerful Italian families. Inside the Vatican palaces, decisions are made that affect kingdoms, wars, and alliances far beyond the walls of Rome. Money flows constantly through the papal administration. Taxes, donations, and payments connected to church lands across Europe. But power in Renaissance Rome is rarely stable. Behind the elegant halls and religious ceremonies, intense political struggles unfold. Rival noble families compete for influence. Secret negotiations take place in private chambers. Rumors of corruption, favoritism, and political intrigue circulate throughout the city. For ordinary residents walking the streets below, the power of the papacy feels distant, yet unavoidable, shaping the future of Rome even when they cannot see what happens behind palace walls. Rome, in the year 1500, is a city defined by sharp contrasts. On one side of the city's narrow streets stand the residences of powerful cardinals and noble families. Behind high stone walls, their palaces are filled with wealth. Marble courtyards, colorful tapestries, paintings, and gold decorations that display both religious devotion and political influence. Servants move quietly through large kitchens preparing elaborate meals. Messengers arrive with letters from distant kingdoms. Diplomats discuss alliances and church politics inside richly decorated halls. But only a few streets away, a completely different world exists. Crowded neighborhoods filled with ordinary laborers, craftsmen, and migrants searching for work. Small apartments above workshops are packed with families sharing tiny rooms. Windows overlook dirty alleys where water drains slowly through uneven stone streets. Street vendors shout to attract customers. Children run between carts and animals. Many residents struggle to afford food, relying on daily wages that disappear quickly in the expensive markets of the city. Beggars sit near church entrances, hoping for charity from wealthy visitors. The contrast between wealth and poverty is impossible to ignore. In Renaissance Rome, power and luxury may dominate the skyline. But the everyday life of most citizens is shaped by constant uncertainty and hard work. Every year, thousands of pilgrims travel to Rome. They come from across Europe, from France, Germany, Spain, and distant villages throughout Italy. Many spend weeks or even months on the road, walking long distances in hopes of reaching the spiritual center of the Christian world. For these travelers, Rome is not just another city. It is the heart of faith. Pilgrims arrive hoping to visit sacred churches, pray at ancient shrines, and see holy relics connected to the early history of Christianity. Places such as St. Peter's Basilica attract huge crowds of visitors seeking blessings and forgiveness. But pilgrimage is not only a spiritual journey. It is also an enormous source of money for the city. Every arriving traveler needs food, shelter, and supplies. Inns fill with visitors. Street vendors sell bread, wine, and religious souvenirs. Guides offer tours of holy sites. Merchants sell candles, prayer books, and small relics believed to carry sacred power. Entire districts of Rome depend on the constant flow of pilgrims. For some residents, the arrival of pilgrims means opportunity and income. But for others, it also means rising prices, crowded streets, and increasing competition for work. In this way, the faith that draws people to Rome also becomes part of the city's fragile economy. life in Rome around the year 1500 is filled with uncertainty, and one of the greatest dangers people face is something they cannot even see. Disease spreads easily through the crowded streets of the city. Many neighborhoods are tightly packed with small buildings and narrow alleys where fresh air barely circulates. Waste is often thrown into the streets or dumped into nearby water channels. Animals wander freely through markets and residential areas, and clean drinking water is not always easy to find. Under these conditions, illness can move quickly from one household to another. Fevers, infections, and outbreaks of plague periodically sweep through the population. Medical knowledge during this time is limited. Doctors rely on treatments such as herbal remedies, bloodletting, or prayers. But these methods rarely stop the spread of serious disease. Hospitals exist, often operated by religious institutions connected to the Catholic Church, but they struggle to care for the growing population. At the same time, the dangers of Rome are not only medical. Violence is a constant threat. Powerful noble families compete for influence, and their rivalries sometimes spill into the streets. Armed guards patrol the entrances of wealthy palaces, while disputes between gangs or mercenary groups can suddenly erupt into fights. For ordinary citizens, simply walking through certain parts of the city at night can be risky. Yet, despite disease, violence, and uncertainty, people continue living their daily lives. Markets still open each morning. Workshops still produce goods. And the crowded streets of Rome remain full of people struggling to survive another day in one of Europe's most powerful and dangerous cities. Despite the hardships of daily life, Rome, around the year 1500, is also entering one of the most extraordinary cultural periods in European history. The Renaissance is transforming the city. Popes begin investing enormous sums of money into rebuilding Rome's churches, palaces, and public spaces. Their goal is not only religious influence, but also prestige, to turn Rome into the artistic and spiritual center of the Christian world. Construction projects appear across the city. Architects design new basilicas and grand courtyards. Ancient Roman ruins inspire new styles of buildings and sculptures. Artists arrive from across Italy, hoping to find patrons among the powerful families and the papal court. Within only a few years, legendary figures like Michelangelo and Raphael will help reshape the visual identity of Rome. Frescoes cover chapel walls. Marble statues fill courtyards. Paintings begin decorating churches and private palaces. To visitors and pilgrims, Rome appears magnificent, a city of art, religion, and power. But this artistic golden age exists alongside the harsher reality of daily life. Because while masterpieces are being created inside palaces and chapels, most residents outside those walls are still struggling simply to survive. Rome has already survived more than most cities in the world. For centuries, it has endured collapse, invasion, political chaos, and economic decline. The once mighty capital of the Roman Empire had fallen into ruins long before the year 1500. Entire districts of the ancient city had been abandoned. Broken columns and crumbling temples stood scattered across empty fields where crowds once gathered. Yet Rome never truly disappeared. Slowly, life returned to the city. New generations settled among the ruins. Markets reopened. Workshops filled narrow streets with the sounds of metal, wood, and stone being shaped into tools and buildings. During the Renaissance, the city begins transforming once again. Powerful popes invest enormous wealth into rebuilding Rome's image and authority. New churches rise over ancient foundations. Palaces appear beside medieval houses. Artists and architects arrive hoping to find patronage and opportunity. But even as the city grows more magnificent, daily life for most residents remains difficult. Workers continue struggling to earn enough to survive. Families crowd into small apartments above noisy streets. The contrast between glory and hardship never disappears. And perhaps that is the true story of Rome, a city where beauty and struggle exist side by side, where power and poverty shape the same streets. Yet, despite centuries of turmoil, Rome continues to endure, adapting, rebuilding, and carrying its long history forward into the future. What you've just experienced is a reconstruction of daily life in Rome around the year 1500, revealing the hidden realities behind one of history's most powerful cities. The streets, markets, and atmosphere in this video were recreated using AI reconstruction technology, allowing us to visualize how ordinary life may have looked during the Renaissance.